welcoming you to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6 and a conversation with Norwood Jones and Lawrence Taylor. And if you're wondering why, so am I. But it's good to see. Well, Norwood has written a song, and we're going to get into the song before we get away. And Lawrence is helping promote this song. So
I'm his agent.
Agent, okay. So we're going to find out about that. But that's a long evolution. And these guys are brothers-in-law.
Brothers-in-law, right? Yeah.
And then work together for decades, all that sort of stuff. So this is an odd family relationship. I did not know until the other day that the judge, because we interviewed Ed Bryant, and he was telling the story about the judge who was killed in the courthouse that fell into the elevator shaft, that you were the person that they sent down there to find or see.
Well, they had two elevators that went down, and one went to the jail and one went to the public. And he opened up one of the elevators, and it was on the 3rd floor, and he didn't know that. He would come in early. Judge Hugh Anderson was a Court of Appeals judge, and on the 3rd floor of the Madison County Courthouse, that's where he had his courts.
Okay.
So he would go up there, and he'd come in early. But the elevator was not there, so he just stepped off. And with two elevators there, well, he fell. They couldn't get to him. And I happened to be in junior high at the time, and Daddy came and got me. And I had to climb up over.
Why did your father get called to?
He was the custodian of the courthouse.
Okay.
And he came and got me, and I had to take my shirt off, climb over, and you know, things you don't really want to remember all the time.
Right.
But I had to tie a rope under him, and Judge Anderson was still alive at the time.
Is that right? Okay.
And his wife I have the desk that he had in his office. He gave it to me. And back then, he gave me a lot of tuxedos. You know, where'd you rent that? I didn't rent. I own this. But he was a really nice guy. He ended up being a Court of Appeals judge in one of the Nuremberg trials.
He was in the
third
trial.
Nuremberg trial.
Okay.
Really nice guy. But it was just a thing that, you know, I don't talk about a whole lot because it's kind of
very unpleasant
for a 14-year-old kid.
But they got you because you were sized where you could get down there, and he was still alive.
There were two. And you had to go in this little office, and you had to climb over. And
wow.
First of all, they pulled him up. They didn't have any way.
How long after that did he live?
A day.
A day. Okay. All right. Wow. But I thought that story. So that, you know, so I thought he was most famous because you always point out when you had the Casey Jones Museum. You always point out the photo that they made on the stamp day or something that you were in the crowd, right?
I was. I still am in there.
Yeah.
So he's in everything we get into.
My dad took me over there. I was in the courthouse, right across from the courthouse.
How did you guys both become involved with the same company, with the Old Country Store?
Well, you know, he worked a little bit part-time with us down there.
So you were one of the original guys with Brooks Shaw.
I originally started that store off right for Brooks Shaw and Reggie Smith back in 1965.
And it was on the bypass at Airways.
It was on what
became the bypass.
Yeah. In those days, you could buy Coca-Cola for a nickel, gum for a nickel, and Dipper ice cream for a nickel. Most were in town, but we were selling it for a dime, and people thought we were crazy. but
were they buying it?
They bought it like mad. Yeah, we sold plenty of ice cream. But you know how many dips of ice cream you got to dip in a day's time to do $100 worth of business? You got to book a whole lot. That's 1,000 dips of ice cream.
Ice cream, okay.
So back in those days, our goal was to do $100 a day.
It's an Old Country Store.
Yeah, yeah, and that remained our goal for about a year.
Well, when did you decide to take on extra help then?
Oh, we had a few extra people there working with us. Joyce was my right-hand lady.
So what year did the Old Country Store start?
We opened in 1965. 1965.
And so it was Reggie and Brooks Shaw.
Reggie and Brooks Shaw, and I was their storekeeper.
Okay.
Reggie called me up one day, and I was in Memphis at the time, and said, "Norwood, would you like to come up here and look at the idea that we've got?" Okay. And I said, "Well, yeah, we'll look at it." But I had just been in the insurance business for I was with my brother in the moving business for 13 years, and he went out of business, and I went to work for John Hancock Insurance, and for about 6 weeks, and I just got long enough to really know how to sell an insurance policy.
Okay.
And then Western Auto asked me to join them, and I quit 2 jobs to come to Jackson, Tennessee to start this old country store.
Okay, very good.
He was perfect for it. How I got involved was I was going to Lambeth. I'd had like 8 years of college, and my wife said, "Hey, look, you can get out another year, you know." So we did fine. And of course,
You worked on a bachelor's degree, is that?
Yeah, I went to LSU, Lambeth Street University. We forgot while I wasn't working, and she was teaching school, that we didn't get a paycheck back then during the summer.
Right.
So we were broke.
Oh, okay.
So Norwood gave Norma and I a job dipping ice cream. So for food. And so we dipped ice cream. We got to eat. We dipped ice cream. We're down there in the morning and say, "I need breakfast. Can I dip some ice cream?"
Okay. So let's go to work. All right. So what made the old country store work? Why did it work? I mean, because it was a showcase of things that Brooks had collected.
Actually, it was a collection of Brooks shawls that he had collected over the previous 4 years, and his goal was to display these things in such a way that young people coming along might see and appreciate what the old general merchants of the 1900.
I enrolled in Freed Hardeman in fall of '68, and when I got there, that was one thing that people said, "Well, you need to go to Jackson to see the old country store." You know,
that's right, they did. Freed Hardeman sort of supported us really good.
Well, I mean, it was just, and so, you come over and go.
Well, it's a state law that you have to stop there.
Okay, well,
that's a lot of money to get that.
Must still be, because it is done well. So when did you go to work there full time then?
Well, I was traveling on the road.
Okay.
I worked down there part time when I got out of college.
Yeah, okay.
And
did you finally graduate or just quit?
Oh, no, I got a degree.
Okay, well, good.
So many flash bulbs went off, they thought it dropped a bomb somewhere. I mean, they couldn't believe he got out. But anyway, I was selling Cracker Barrel.
Okay.
And Cracker Barrel didn't have central buying at that particular time, Steve. So I would go to each individual store.
Wow.
And they were all on the interstate.
Okay.
So I came back and kept telling Norwood. I was telling Norwood some stuff. I think Clark maybe was still in college at UT. And I wanted them to move to the interstate so I could sell them more gifts.
Gifts, okay, yeah.
So, because Cracker Barrel was doing really well at that particular time. And one thing just led to another, and we put a new corporation together and moved out there in '78, April 78.
So you got involved full time when they went to
the interstate? Well, I was going to be a silent partner, and we didn't realize how much busier we'd be at the interstate. So I ended up working 2 jobs. What am I doing?
So you moved to the interstate and it actually worked.
Oh, man, I had to let's close at 5, how about you? It wouldn't work.
So there we go. We're talking with Norwood Jones and Lawrence Taylor, and they are brothers-in-law. They're also promoting a song that we'll get to before we get out of here, but we want to take advantage of this great expertise because they've been in Jackson, Tennessee. And Jones family goes back to Nando Jones and everything else. I want to talk a little bit about that, how that got set up.
All my family grew up here.
Our family grew up here, and so here we go. This is Norwood Jones and Lawrence Taylor, and this is Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. Welcome back to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6 and a conversation with Lawrence Taylor and Norwood Jones. They are brothers-in-law. They're also co-promoting a song that Norwood wrote that we'll get to before the end of the show. It's called Hoe Soe Moe. And there's got to be a story there. But anyway, so they're working together, and they have been most of their life. I did want to find out, because it wasn't directly, but the Nando Jones store that was downtown all those years, it was someone in your family, a brother?
That was my brother.
Brother, okay.
Yeah.
And so what was the history of that store?
Well, he was probably one of the oldest stores in Jackson, Tennessee. They operated until about 4 years ago, and
they did open at that store that was downtown,
right
there at Shannon and Lafayette.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, Nando was in partners with Osfeld. who was a Jew,
Jewish.
which is a very unusual situation for have a Gentile and a Jew
in the same
partnered in a
Jewish community was strong in the merchant community here with the Kisbers and Tufels. I mean,
Rosenblums.
I mean, they were an integral part of this city. So how did that partnership come about?
Well, Nando worked for Oswald across the street there for a while, and he wanted to go in business for himself. And Oswald said, "Well, hey, we'll go in together." And they came together and did a fantastic job for 65, 70 years, right there on West Lafayette Street here. Because Nando was connected with partners with a Jew. A lot of people thought Nando was a Jew.
Okay.
Yeah, and he...
Most Joneses I know are. Bad tip of the joke. So Nando, so people thought he was Jewish merchant.
Yeah, they thought he was a Jew because he partners with a Jew in his when he started off. And then he bought Oswald out. And,
What made that store? Because what I remember, it had become almost like a novelty because you could go to Nando Jones and kind of get anything, right? Any size pant or whatever. It was just like this amazing place.
Hey, he had anything you want to get, and all you have to do is ask him. But now, he had 3 floors there, and he knew exactly where everything was in that whole store. And if you asked for something on the 3rd floor, he'd walk up the 3rd floor and get it for him. And Nando kind of outlived all of us Joneses, 89 years old, and I kind of give the credit to the fact that he walked those stairs. I had no telling how many times a day to get the...
Retailing has changed so much, you know, and chains, all this other stuff.
Unbelievable.
It doesn't seem that it is as much fun as it would have been.
Well,
Because I mean, that's not taking. I mean, there was always risk in being in business, and all that stuff. But it would seem like it would have been a personal, much more fun business looking back on it then than now.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so.
My brother Kirby Jones also was in the furniture business here in Jackson, and he ran a good operation for several years here in Jackson. Started off when he was a kid.
Now you say that there's a story involved when you left Lawrence in charge of the Old Country Store.
Well, yeah. Of course, you can't believe only about half of anything my brother-in-law tells you, and I really kind of hesitate saying he's my brother-in-law because I married his sister, which was the best thing in the world I ever did in my life. She's my neatest gal for over 64 years, and she's special to me. But believe me, she don't look anything like him.
Thank goodness.
Well, what was the circumstance when you got left in charge?
Well, he was working part-time. And
I was still working for food.
And he was there one night, and I decided I wanted to go home for a little while and let him lift him in charge. And so Lawrence can tell you the rest of the story.
To set it up, Steve, they opened the Old Country Store as a museum. After about a year, they realized that wasn't going to work, so they started ice cream. Then they put a little deli in there. And you had...
Is that when y'all were doing the coffee cups with the people's names on it and all stuff? Coffee shop.
And then you could have a couple of tables, and you could sit down on the counter. And
mainly a big long counter was the first thing we ever
So
had.
the food evolved from the museum.
Well, we just needed somebody to come in.
The food, and I knew nothing about the restaurant business, and the food got involved because we like to not have made it after the first year because people didn't. In the wintertime, you didn't like it. You didn't want a lot of ice cream, and you didn't want a lot of deli food in the winter months. But
well, he said, I need to go home. And I said, I don't know anything about this. So we were cooking cornbread. We had crackling cornbread. You had to mix it up. He said, it won't be anybody. It's 7:30. There won't be anybody in it in the night. But let me show you how to do it. And then here's a corned beef sandwich. And this is all you did. Put this on it. All you got to do. Lo and behold, about 15 people walked in. He had tied his apron on me, and Norman always said, I would have quit if I could untie my apron. But I'm sitting there, and they wanted cornbread, and I'm cooking, and we put it on the grill. As I was stirring the cornbread, I was sweating, and it was running down and right into the cornbread. I looked up, and the lady said, I'm going to want cornbread. And Norwood came in, and he said, I had my hand in the pickle jar, trying to get the pickle. So that worked. I didn't have anything to do with the restaurant.
From then on, so they never asked you to cook again. Okay, so that worked out. All right. Yeah. When you guys decided to move to the interstate then in '78, did that go out there? And then the house came later? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you went out there in '78 and put in the old country store. Mm-hmm. And the village then came about how? With the museum and all that stuff?
The village came about, back in about, I think it's 1974, there was a flood in town.
Okay.
And that flood, we had our desk in the back of the store floating in.
Oh, y'all were down there on Airways.
We're down there on Airways.
Because Bobby still gets flooded down there.
That's the year that we decided, look, we need to be looking for a new
place.
Different location. Okay. And this location out on the bypass was owned by Reggie Smith. And Brooks had looked at it. Me and Brooks had looked at this spot back before Brooks passed away.
Okay.
And we decided, well, hey, this might be a good spot. We got a good deal with Reggie, and we built it. And as Lawrence says, the first day we were in business, we did 4 times as much business as we ever did in any one day at the other store.
Okay.
And
wow.
the funny thing, not funny thing about it, but we thought we had designed that restaurant just perfect for everything we were going to do. And the first day, we had to take out 2 walls in order to make it work. Let the tractor get through.
One of my first celebrity interviews was done right at that place. Oh, when Charlie Pride was in town.
Yeah.
Interviewed him out there at the old country store. Still have a photo of that somewhere. And
there's an interesting. Charlie Pride came by there, and nobody knew him. The first time he came by, nobody recognized the guy. But the time you made the interview for him, boy, they were all over that store.
Yeah. I mean, he was a big star then coming in to play the Jackson Coliseum. So the house got moved out there when? The museum then moves?
The house got moved 2 years later.
2 years later, so that was in 1980.
Let me tell you a little story about that. We're media people, Clark and Norwood love the media. We had Paducah, Tupelo, all the Jackson stations, Memphis, Nashville. This is a historic event. And we had this guy moving the house that had never moved a house before. So I walked down, and I'm checking everything out because we're going to go up the bypass out there.
Right.
It's going to take about 6 hours. So this guy comes up to me, and he said, Mr. Taylor, can I borrow $20? I said, why? I don't have any gas in my truck. I said, what? You know what? You don't have any gas? You see all these cameras? And he said, I gave him 20. I said, don't you let anybody see you putting this gas in your truck. So I go to Norwood, and Clark said, now y'all start pointing over this way. so I can't see him. To make a long story short, we started out, and we got about a third, and he didn't have it high enough, and we got stuck on a bridge. Mile marker 16, I think it was. Paul Harvey next day said, the Casey Jones Home and Railroad Museum is on mile marker 16. People were upset. I mean,
so y'all had the bypass blocked up?
Oh, all night. And so we had
it was stood in the middle of the bypass
and they cut off
long.
They cut off, Steve, the hospital electricity for a certain amount of time. We were going to go under it. Where Hollywood went over 45 bypass. Okay. Well, we missed that opportunity. So then after we got it jacked up and started out again the second day, it was supposed to be already out there and set up.
So 6-hour trip's already gone 2 days.
Oh, and then we got to where you couldn't go across. They didn't want to cut the electricity off again at the hospital. Right. So we had to go down the ramp and up the ramp on the other side. Well, that didn't work either. It was too long.
I ain't going to say, we're going to pick this up. We're trying to move the Casey Jones house from downtown to 6-hour trip. We're into 2 days. Plus, we got to talk about a song. Lawrence Taylor, Norwood Jones with us, and this is a unique edition of Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. Welcome back to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. If you're just joining us, we were moving the Casey Jones house from downtown to the location out on the bypass, which was supposed to be a 6-hour trip. We're in the second day. How many days did it finally take?
Well, it took about 3 days to get it.
So y'all had the bypass clogged up for 3 days.
We weren't real popular with the
There was one other time, one other thing, many stories to tell. Y'all did that rocking chair contest out there.
Yeah, we did.
Whoever could rock the longest.
On Airways.
On air, okay. And
Actually, Lawrence came up with that idea.
So the idea was whoever could rock the longest would win a car, right, or something. What was it?
This was with the sesquicentennial.
Sesquicentennial. Okay.
Sesquicentennial,
All right.
yeah.
And so how long did somebody rock?
Rocked 5 days and 5.5 days.
We thought if we rocked 2 days, that would be fine. It would be Saturday and Sunday.
Because you got media there. To see
Right. Oh, man, it was, really well. I was Colonel Beauregard horse pasture. Okay. And I went out pretty quick. We had one guy that only casualty, Joe Sykes, is the utility department, went to sleep and rocked over his finger.
So somebody rocked for 5.5 days.
Yeah, Lawrence came up with that idea, and he was going to be a part of the show. And on the morning they came in, he wasn't dressed at all. I had to kick him back in the back and dress him up like a colonel.
Colonel and all that stuff.
And then...
So y'all had to monitor that for 5.5 days.
Oh, we started out singing really fast. And the third night we were singing, "Help Me Make It Through the Night," Sammy Smith. Just slow, trying to get him going.
Well, y'all talking about Roy Acuff came out there and rode the train when y'all got it set up out there, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
There's been many things we can talk about. Well, I got you here on the pretense of talking about this song. So I want to hear about the song because we got to wrap up here. So.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, this song came about. I had a hip replacement back a year or so ago. Okay. And my wife took care of me like I was a baby.
Okay.
And well, to a certain extent, I was, because she was having to put on my shoes, clothes, and everything. And she did that for about 3 months. Okay. I mean, 30 days.
Okay.
That's a little bit different from 3 months. She did it for about 30 days.
About 30 days, okay.
And we were sitting in the bathroom there one day, and she was trying to put my shoes on. And I said, "Honey, goodness gracious, I think I ought to try to do this myself. I ought to start trying to do this myself." And all of a sudden, right out of the blue, it says, "Hoe Soe Moe." Okay. Don't let nobody tell you can't hoe some moe.
Talking about working with a garden hoe.
That's right. With a garden hoe. Well, that's kind of the idea of it. Yeah. And so I went back in my office and I wrote
the song.
Wrote about 6 more verses there besides "Nobody Can Tell You."
So the message in life is, what do you run into? You need to be ready to hoe some moe.
You need, hey, don't let anybody tell you you can't hoe some moe. Okay. Yeah, don't let. It's kind of it was kind of, I call it a song inspired to inspire.
Okay. All right. And how'd you get involved with this?
Huh?
How'd you get involved with it?
Oh, I'm his producer. I'm his agent.
Hey, he's my agent.
Okay.
We're on iTunes, CD Baby, Spotify. And
so I can go CD Baby, Spotify, iTunes, all that.
So far, I made 87 cents.
But so I can download this song.
Oh yeah. See, okay. Please do. We need the money.
Okay. Hey, so I go Spotify, CD Baby,
Amazon Music,
Apple
Music.
All right. So who recorded this song? You have a singer on the song. It's not you.
We had a very talented entertainer from up Nashville who was a friend of my daughter's up there in Franklin. Okay. Who she got him to set it to music for me as a Christmas.
So you had the lyrics kind of a tune.
I did the lyrics, and he set it to music. Okay. Christmas time, gave me a CD for Christmas time. He did. Okay. And it did it so well. We thought, well, boy, we're going to get him to record.
So
this
they cut it for you.
We went up to their studio, Creekwood Studio.
Creekwood Studio.
And Steve, he did a great job. He had all the best players around him. Okay. Norwood came home the next day, had a massive heart attack. So we kind of had to put it on hold for a while. So he's been hoeing some more, so now we're ready to get back.
So y'all ready to go?
You would really go with it.
Okay, so
It really is a catchy tune.
catchy tune. All right.
It really is.
Well, that's how we're going to conclude the show. I really appreciate y'all taking time
Well, thank
to do
you,
this.
Steve.
I mean,
Appreciate
I feel like it's kind of like talking to Dale Kelly, which we did right prior to this, just scratching the surface. There's many more stories out here.
I can't tell you all the stuff I know. By now.
Hey, you know what? I listen to all the stuff you
Yeah.
do.
All right. Well, I appreciate y'all doing this very much.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to close out in a different way. We always say that to stay with us at EPlusTV 6. This is a place where the dialogue continues. Today, we're going to let you hear, cut from in Franklin, Tennessee, at what was it, Creekwood? Creekwood Studios.
And 4 of the best professional backup entertainers worked with him that night to do it.
And this is
Nashville.
this is the message of life. Whatever you run into, you got to hoe some mo.
Hoe Soe Moe. That's right.
Yeah. Hoe Soe Moe, Hoe Soe Moe. Don't let nobody say you can't. Hoe Soe Moe, Hoe Soe Moe, Hoe Soe Moe. Don't ever get to where you can't. Hoe Soe Moe. When I was a boy working in the fields and the grass began to grow, that's when I knew I had to hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't let nobody say you can't. Hoe some more, hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't ever get to where you can't. Hoe some more. When you get in school and your grades ain't good, that's when you know you gotta hoe some more. When you get married and start having lots of kids, that's when you know you gotta hoe some more. When your work gets heavy and your money gets low, that's when you know you gotta hoe some more. Hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't let nobody say you can't. Hoe some more, hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't ever get to where you can't. Hoe some more, yeah. Let's thank God for those who paved the way with blood, sweat, and tears day after day for this land of the free and home of the brave. Let's keep the faith and pray as we hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't let nobody say you can't. Hoe some more, hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't ever get the way you can't. Hoe some more, hoe some more, hoe some more. Don't let nobody say you can't. Hoe some more.